Good afternoon. My name is Jason Chavez, and I'm the chair of the Committee of the Whole. I'm going to call to order our regular committee meeting for Tuesday, April 15th, 2025. Before we begin the meeting, I want to offer a friendly reminder to all members, staff, and the public that these meetings are broadcast live to enable greater public participation. These broadcasts include real-time captioning as a further method to increase the accessibility of our proceedings to the community. Therefore, all speakers need to be mindful of the rate of their speech so that our captioners can fully capture and transcribe all comments for the broadcast. We ask all speakers to moderate the speed and clarity of their comments. At this time, I'll ask the clerk to call the roll to verify the presence of a quorum.
Councilmember Payne.
Present.
Wansley.
Present.
Rainville.
Present.
Vita.
Present.
Ellison is absent. Osman.
Present.
Cashman is absent. Jenkins is absent. Chuktai is absent. Koski.
Present.
Palmisano.
Present.
Vice Chair Chowdhury.
Present.
Chair Chavez.
Present.
There are 9 members present.
Let the record reflect that we have a quorum. First, we have a motion from Councilmember Osman to amend the agenda to add his item. Would you like to speak quickly on this, Councilmember Osman?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I would like to amend to add this item on the agenda is a policy resolution enhancing cultural responsive water safety and drowning prevention for autistic children. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any questions or comments? All those in favor of adding this to the agenda, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed say nay. Any abstentions? And that is going to be added to the end of the agenda. I also like the clerk to note that Council Vice President Chuktai is with us today. And the first item is passage of a resolution related to federal grant funding. I'll ask the City Attorney Anderson to brief us on this item. Thank you. I was looking over there.
Sorry, shapeshifter here. Council members, wanted to just give you a little bit of background about the resolution before you with respect to federal grant agreements. So this is somewhat related to the resolution that I came before you with a couple of months ago around federal actions. So essentially what this resolution is asking for is actually limiting some authority, which might seem strange, but as you all know, when we apply for grants over a certain amount, we need to get pre-approval from that, for the council from that, and then when we actually receive the grants, we come to the council for approval. The council approves, and generally speaking, then the instruction with the approval of the receipt of the grant funds is, and go forth and sign off on contractual grant agreements that are necessary. And so right now, there's a fairly decentralized approach to signing off on grant agreements. Once the council has approved of the receipt of the grant, then the grant can be, agreements can be signed off on by many different levels of staff in the enterprise. What we have seen is at least the threat, and in some circumstances more than the threat, of conditions that are being attached to federal dollars through grants, and some of these through the grant, fine print on grant agreements. What we don't want to have happen is for a city staff member who is not apprised of the legal language or the implications to sign off on a grant agreement and bind the city to grant terms that, in fact, the city does not want to be bound to. So what this resolution does is essentially has this body revoking the delegated authority to sign off on grant agreements other than for specific positions. So this would require that in order to bind the city to a grant agreement involving federal funds, and it could be directly from the federal government or it could be passed through federal dollars from some other source, the grant agreement would have to be signed off on by either the city operations officer, the chief financial officer, or the director of procurement, and then must also be signed off as to form by my office. So all of these are getting the legal review that's required. We have the authority to sign off and bind the city really consolidated in specific positions, and any other signature on a grant agreement is void and unenforceable. So this will be the status quo unless and until this body explicitly overturns this resolution. So it really is intended to be a safeguard to ensure that we know what we're signing off on before we sign off on it. Sort of an internal controls measure. So it, again, fairly straightforward, but I think a very important step to protect our legal interests in this time of changing grant conditions.
Thank you. First up, we have Vice Chair Chowdhury.
Thank you, Chair Chavez, and thank you, Attorney Anderson, for bringing this and working on this. This does seem fairly straightforward, and I 100% understand the intent and plan on supporting it. I do have a couple of questions. The first being, who typically, and you can maybe give like a position level, is current signatories for federal grant acceptances?
Chair Chavez, council member, the lawyer's answer of it depends. It really does vary depending on department, depending on the kind of grant. Sometimes it could be the staff level folks who are actually administering the grant. It could be the department head. There's really not a standard practice, which is another reason why it's important to consolidate, especially again with these grant conditions that really are coming in fine print to make sure that we have real control over what we're signing.
Mm-hmm. Is there going to still be a step of a requirement of a check through staff before it goes to the city attorney's office for that final acceptance? Like the department accepts it, the staff level expertise has been given, all of that?
Council Chair, Council Member, so what I would anticipate, obviously the application for the grant, that's going on at the department, coming to council when it's of a certain amount, when the amounts are accepted. I think that those RCAs will be submitted the way they always are. Okay. And then, obviously staff who are involved in implementing the grant will have to be involved if there's any negotiation of the terms of the grant. So I would anticipate that, staff, to the extent that we need that expertise, we will obviously be including that. It's really that last step of the actual signature, right, the legal signature on the grant that would be limited.
And then do you know how many, maybe within a calendar year, or like maybe you have another metric of the number of grant acceptances that we've had to do as an enterprise?
Council Chair, Council Member, I don't. I get the sense that it's a lot, but I don't really have a way to quantify that.
Right. Yeah, I just asked because we'll be shifting, I assume, a large sum of work over to the city attorney's office that I'm sure y'all be ready to figure out how to address. The last question that I have, and again, really grateful that your team and yourself thought of this, very, very proactive, is do you have any understanding of the intent historically why the control for a signature was with whichever level staff or department director in the nature it was before we make this change?
Council Chair, Council Member, my speculation is it's efficiency, right? It's, concentrating these sorts of administrative functions in a few people mean that it's sometimes going to take longer. Whereas, for speed and efficiency, having lower level staff being able to sign off, obviously just doesn't bottleneck and things like that. So, that's the downside of this resolution, but to my way of thinking, the potential risks involved with just maintaining this decentralized system outweigh the efficiencies that we would lose.
Right. Yeah. Okay. Well, wonderful. There might actually be some unforeseen benefits too through this move.
Next up, we have Councilmember Vita.
Thank you, Chair Chavez. I just had a question about the timeline. It doesn't have an expiration date, and you did kind of touch on it a little bit about we have to take action against this action. Could you just talk a little bit more about the timeline for this resolution, please?
Yeah, Council Chair, Council Member, it does not sunset, so it exists until it's explicitly revoked. You know, the reason why we wrote that particular language in is that, you know, from time to time, you know, the sort of the standard language with the council approval has something along the lines of, and the department shall execute. We want to make sure that, like, that does not override this more specific resolution. Again, it's really trying to get the internal controls for these federal dollars. You know, I wish I could tell you when I think that the need will evaporate, but given that I don't know that, I think, you know, my recommendation is that we don't have a sunset. And, you know, if we, after a period of time, find that it's unworkable or the kind of risk dissipates, we would certainly, you know, my office would come back to this body and ask for it to be overturned.
And I guess that was what I wanted to just kind of make sure is clear. This body has to overturn it. There's no loopholes or anything where someone else can say, okay, I'm done with this. Let's start going back to the old way. It has to come back to council in order for this to be overturned.
Council Chair, Council Member, yes, it's this body that delegates that authority. So it would be this body that would have to make a different delegation.
Thank you.
Thank you. Seeing no one else on queue, I did want to acknowledge that we have been joined by Councilmember Jenkins and Councilmember Ellison. And seeing no one else on queue, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed say nay. Any abstentions? And the ayes have it, and that motion carries. Next, we have the passage of an ordinance related to council staff policy, research, and oversight functions. This was continued at our last meeting for April 29th. However, due to conflicts that cycle, it is on the agenda today. I'll welcome Clerk Carl for that presentation.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair, committee members. As indicated, my name is Casey Carl. I have the privilege of serving as clerk for the city of Minneapolis. As the chair noted, this is our second pass at bringing the ordinance before this body. It deals with the internal transfer of functions within the legislative department. A first presentation was offered to this committee in the last cycle at its regular meeting on March 25th. That original presentation is available in the LIMS file. Today, staff will summarize the proposed amendment in three ways. First, City Attorney Anderson will provide the legal analysis and framework for this proposal. Her original memo, which is dated November 6, 2024, is included in the LIMS file. She'll summarize that memo and explain the legal reasoning for the transfer. Second, City Auditor Robert Timmerman will provide a synopsis of the operational impact that this proposal has on the Auditor's Office. His memo, dated March 20th, is also included in the LIMS file. And then I'll discuss how the transfer impacts the Clerk's Office, and after that, summarize the benefits we believe the transfer will offer the City Council and outline next steps in that process. So with that, we'll move into the legal analysis by City Attorney Anderson.
Council members, you've heard a little bit of this before, and obviously you've had an opportunity to look at the memo that my office drafted back in November. But I'll try to really break it down to its most simple parts. So this really rises and falls on the city charter. Article 4 of the city charter creates what we know as the legislative branch. It doesn't call it legislative branch, it calls it city council, but essentially that's what it is. It's the legislative branch of city government. And the article really breaks the legislative branch into what I'm going to really refer to as the two boxes. For these purposes, I'm going to ignore the word offices box and really look at the box of the city clerk and the box of the auditor. The charter prescribes explicit functions for the auditor. The auditor under the city charter is to perform audit services. It gives some examples of what audit services are, but limits the city auditor to perform audit services. I don't mean to diminish that. The audit services are great, and the jurisdiction of the auditor is complete over every department, board, even the council itself, the auditor has jurisdiction over. So it is a narrowish scope of services, but the jurisdiction is very, very broad. And then the other box of the legislative branch, the city clerk box, is quite broad. It's serving as the secretary of the body, multiple different functions falling under it, some of them articulated, some of them not. And the idea of nonpartisan council staff is in the charter, falling under the auspices of the city clerk. And the idea of the council staff is not the ward staff, but this is the nonpartisan staff that is there to provide generalized support to the council as a body, not to individual members like the ward staff, but to the council as a body. And then the charter also provides that the city clerk also has whatever other functions are provided to the city clerk by ordinance, by resolution, or by other direction of the city council. So what I like to refer to other duties as assigned. That box then under the clerk is much broader than that of the auditor, but it's more specific in terms of its support and service to the city council. The other aspect of the charter that's really important in this analysis is that the auditor, again, having jurisdiction over every department, every body, including the council, is independent under the charter, and that independence is featured in a few different ways. It reports to the audit committee, and even the audit committee can't direct its work. It is independent by way of having to follow independent standards, and really needs to keep itself sacrosanct from any direction by any other body, including the council, from the administration. It truly is independent. And so in doing the analysis for the memo, looking at PAR and O&E, we found two problems under the charter. One being that the services of PAR and O&E are not audit services, and as I said before, the charter limits the auditor to providing audit services. And the second is because PAR and O&E, the way the ordinance is written, they do get direction from the council, and they should, right? They are really there for support of the council. Because they are getting direction directly from the council, they don't have the kind of independence that would be needed in order for them to stay in the auditor's office. So the solution is an amendment to the ordinance, and it's a fairly simple ordinance that really just lifts the functions of PAR and O&E and transfers them from the audit office to the city clerk. And again, they fit really well within the city clerk's responsibilities because they do provide that nonpartisan support function to the whole body. They do fall within the other duties as assigned by the clerk and will allow for that direct access by the body that will not then impede the independence of the auditor. We have made some additional amendments to the ordinance that's before you to really just highlight several times the independence of the city auditor, up to and including making it clear that the clerk, while the head of the legislative department, the head of the legislative branch, only provides administrative support functions for the city auditor and doesn't control the city auditor. So that was important to highlight that independence of the auditor's office as well. And now I will turn it over to the auditor.
Welcome.
Thanks, Chair Chavez, council members. I just want to mention that I agree with what has been presented over the last two cycles. We've had an opportunity to further enhance the language in the ordinance change. We've met with Audit Committee Chair and Audit Committee Vice Chair, and I know that the Audit Committee Chair, Council President Payne, has also reached out to Audit Committee members. These changes, and I'm going to just quickly go back a slide. One of the questions that came up 3 weeks ago was how will the clerk manage the original intent of program evaluation. And really the answer from the independent auditor perspective is that we will be able to manage that through a new unit that we hope to create. We plan to create a new unit or division that will focus on special reviews, that will focus on advisory services. So when you look at government auditing standards, which are promulgated by the U.S. government, there is something called performance audits. And I believe that what the council was looking for when they asked for program evaluations or performance evaluations, from the independent auditor's perspective, we can manage that through performance audits. We can manage that by including those through our annual risk assessment. We can talk with the council, identify areas that the council members or council bodies may want reviewed, and we can consider those for inclusion for performance audits. So I did want to share that with a new division, we can meet some of the original intent of the council and also be responsive to a lot of the ad hoc asks, such as after-action reviews that come forward to the city auditor's office. The memo that I wrote and shared on March 20th is also attached in the LIMS file, and that is all articulated in that memo. So I do not want to really go too much further into the details that City Attorney Anderson has shared or that Clerk Carl has shared, because I think that the memos pretty much provide a good description of what's needed legally, what's needed by audit standards, and frankly, what we can do to provide you the best service, both on PAR and O&E's work and the auditor's work. So at this point, I think I'll hand it back over to Clerk Carl for some closing comments.
Thank you, Mr. Timmerman. And so in terms of the impacts for the clerk's office, I believe the recommended transfer would actually expand and enhance the types and the levels of service and the support offered to the city council and its committees. Of course, the clerk's office has several business lines, but of direct interest here is the existing legislative support and operations division, which essentially supports the work of council and its committees and also provides day-to-day operational support for the council, council's ward offices, and for the entire legislative department. The transfer of these two teams from the auditor's office nicely aligns with this existing division and would allow us to build upon the services that are currently offered, essentially providing a full-service legislative support function, which is something that I know this council has been asking for since the voter-approved government structure amendment passed in 2021. And I think that this transfer represents the most significant effort to date to achieve that kind and level of professional support, which does exist in comparable jurisdictions in which council has long advocated for itself. This slide is a repeat from my original presentation. Here I've attempted to show the alignment between these two divisions as I've described them, one being legislative support and operations, and the other a consolidation of the existing policy, research, and oversight and evaluation teams. As you can see, the two divisions would be working in very close collaboration to support the council's legislative, policymaking, and oversight functions. And together, the two divisions would support the planning, the organization, and conduct of council and committee meetings, including the preparation of all notices, agendas, and other materials necessary to enable the bodies to make decisions and take actions, to inform and support the work of the council and its committees by providing original research, analysis, and reference work, including standardized reports as well as more customized research and analysis work tied to committee work plans. We would also bring in-house a level of financial expertise to support the council's work on budget, financial policies, and oversight functions, as well as timely tracking and reporting on the full scope of council's work in all of its capacities. We would be positioned to provide direct interaction between the council and its legislative department and the administration, acting as embedded interdepartmental liaisons within the legislative department, rather than relying solely on legislatively or interdepartmental liaisons in the executive branch. And of course, we would continue to support the operations of the department, outreach and constituent services, and support for the network of the city's appointed boards and commissions. So As this slide shows, and I hope I've indicated, the two divisions are anticipated to provide the council with the support that it requires and deserves as the city's legislative body. They would support legislative policymaking functions in helping the council to enact policies that serve and advance the interests of the community. So, having addressed the framework and the operational impact for the auditor and the clerk, wanted to talk about next steps that we anticipate going forward. Obviously, first and foremost, we need council to pass the ordinance. This action will then reposition formally those existing functions under the clerk's office, as has been described, and enable us to leverage internal synergies, as I've also explained. These divisions will operate under the direct leadership of the Chief Assistant City Clerk. Physically, the new Legislative Research Oversight Division will be co-located on the third floor in the new Legislative Department space, which is located in the northeast corner of City Hall, along with our Department Operations team, our Information Technology and Design team, and our Information Governance Division. As a first course of action, we plan to re-examine the landscape analysis of comparable jurisdictions to see how we compare to those jurisdictions and the types of support models that are in place for their councils. This original research was already produced by Policy and Research. We want to understand how those jurisdictions are structured and how they operate to see how we can learn from them in redesigning this new division. We also want to explore how to leverage the concept of council staff, separate from council member aides, which is defined in the city charter, as the city attorney explained. And we want to do more in-depth analysis of those jurisdictions that we've identified and potentially even do some on-site tours so we can learn with our peers. We'll need to collaborate internally, of course, with our partners in other departments, particularly in finance, property services, and human resources, to identify and sequence the priorities for future investments. That'll begin in the 2026 budget process and carry forward into future years. And finally, as I said in the original presentation and repeat here, in keeping with previous directives that are already in place, we want to be sure to track our work on this implementation and the development of a legislative department with regular reports to this body. I did hear loud and clear this body wants to be kept informed on the development of our department, and I welcome the opportunity not only to provide regular reports publicly to this committee, but also updates one-on-one with those who would like them. Ms. Giesler and I will be planning a regular cadence of public updates to the Committee of the Whole for the rest of this year as we work to integrate these teams into the clerk's office. So with that, Mr. Chair, we've completed our staff presentation and are happy to respond to questions the committee may have.
Thank you. First off, we have President Payne.
Thank you, Chair Chavez, and thank you, Mr. Clerk. I originally moved this to April 29th because, unlike us, we meet every 2 weeks for our formal meeting. The Audit Committee only meets every other month, and that aligned better with the Audit Committee meeting, and I just wanted to make sure that Audit Committee members had an opportunity to engage with this topic and have some agency over the future of this move. And that did give me enough time, especially with that ward week, to get in touch. I reached out to all Audit Committee members. I got to have a pretty substantive conversation with the Audit Vice Chair, and I think the big thing that came out of that by way of feedback was, if we're making this move for the sake of strengthening the independence of the city auditor, we should be very clear about that independence. So it should be independent in fact and in perception, and replicating some of that independence language within the language of the ordinance was our solve for that. So I'm really grateful for the partnership with the clerk, the city attorney, and the city auditor to get that independence language strengthened in the ordinance. And there's also just the timeliness of this. This is a charter requirement. And I just want to elevate the fact that we are still working through updating our charter to reflect that ballot change. And a focus on the legislative side, I think, is what's really, truly needed. We've done a lot of work on the executive side. We have the omnibus ordinance that has created our new cabinet members. They don't exist in the charter yet. You shared an update from the last Charter Commission meeting. They have some proposed amendments that do add those cabinet members to the charter. I'd like us to actually have a much more fulsome conversation about what the needs on the legislative side are, especially as it relates to how the legislative body is supported, especially in our oversight role. I think that's a bit lacking in the charter as it exists today. We've issued a letter to the Charter Commission to request a joint meeting. I'm reviewing the proposed amendments from the Charter Commission so that I can be prepared for that joint meeting, but I just wanted to say that we as a body should review the clerk's email about the update from the Charter Commission, see what those proposed amendments are, and think about what our needs are as a legislative body so that we can all show up to a joint meeting prepared to have a much more fulsome conversation about how we build the future of this new government structure from a good governance perspective.
Vice Chair Chowdhury.
Thank you, Chair Chavez. I don't have any questions in particular. In the last Committee of the Whole where we took this up, it was important for me to share that I wasn't in a place of supporting the policy. There was a lot of information that I had not received, and also just wanted to understand like a deeper articulation of vision for the legislative department. Was able to schedule a meeting with Attorney Anderson and Clerk Carl, and then Councilmember Cashman's team also joined in that conversation, and it was a deep conversation. And I also pushed in doing an exercise of kind of asking our clerk to see into the future, and I know that is tough to do, but I thought that was very helpful. I think the two things out of this change that we're doing is, of course, the independence of the city auditor and making sure that's possible, but I want to highlight it's strengthening the legislative department and taking it to the next step of making it more robust. And that's what I came away with from that conversation. I really appreciate the opportunity for support within committees as a conversation and having staff support us through budget. That's been a gap, and we have seen that gap, especially this last legislative cycle on the city budget. I think one thing I would share with my colleagues up here, two things. PAR and O&E, they exist in the way that they do right now. I see them as very distinct from one another, and through this move, they would not exist in the way that they are. And I think that's important for us to all understand. Like, the work and the functions would exist, but it would take shape in another form. And I think, especially on the side of oversight and evaluation, there is a lot of space for council members to engage and discuss how we, not only thinking about our body now, but into the future, would like to see functions and types of support look like, right? That's something that we are going to have the opportunity to actively shape. The other thing that also feels really important to me, and I've communicated this to Clerk Carl, obviously there isn't a possibility to get a full guarantee, but it is a hope and ask and a priority of mine, is policy and research has actively been supporting a lot of work from council members, giving us information and research, and to avoid disruption of that service is really, really important to me, especially as we're engaging in more of our policy discussions in the next quarter of our council calendar. All in all, I think this step feels clear in supporting a more robust legislative department, and I think there's a lot of space for us to get involved and help shape what it could look like for our council and councils into the future.
Councilmember Wansley.
Thank you, Chair Chavez. I'll keep my comments brief, but just to reiterate, I've shared, I think it's simply bad governance to make structural changes without doing a deeper dive and making sure that we're really exploring all of our options as it pertains to making sure that we're building a legislative department that is both effective, efficient, and transparent. And that said, I know there's been hyper focus on the legal memo that's been provided by the city attorney's office in regards to why we're making this shift. But I've also asked the city attorney's office to provide a number of memos related to government structure as we've dived into a lot of issues in the coming weeks and have it's raised a number of questions from the city attorneys around the legislative departments or the legislative body's capacities or limitations all of a sudden. And those memos have yet to be completed or provided to council, or the answers provided to some of us have just also been grossly insufficient. So that said, I think the response to those legal questions, once we finally have them, will have great impacts and will shape how we distribute resources and staffing to support the work that we do and help us being effective in the work that we do for and on behalf of our constituents. And I just absolutely don't want to take a piecemeal approach in building up this department, as we saw took place with the executive side. And I'm glad that there's a sense of urgency to do that examination on here, and I hope the city attorneys and other staff are looking with that same urgency of where is there misalignment on the executive side as well. But I will name, while I don't agree with this particular policy measure, I will name it seems to be a short-term agreement or solution, and I will still be bringing forward a legislative directive to hopefully get to a place where we can have that long-term vision and conversation to have a concrete proposal around what it looks like to have a functional, thriving legislative department that doesn't get to that piecemeal approach where we aren't moving with reactionary urgency or around just selective or arbitrary personnel issues. So I am excited to move forward with that piece, and that will be coming next cycle, and I appreciate at least council leadership looking to find an intermediate resolution that is brought forward today for us to consider.
Councilmember Palmisano.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you to council leadership and our city clerk for expediting this and bringing this forward now instead of waiting another cycle. Mr. Clerk, did I hear you say that this is how our refurbished offices across the street are literally arranged and being set up? Is with O&E and PAR more integrated into the city clerk's space?
Through the chair, Councilmember Palmisano, as we get ready to transition back to the refurbished third floor in City Hall, the council and clerks will be located on the western side of the building, occupying spaces council previously had occupied, and then the other side of the chamber where the mayor had previously been. So that entire western side, or the west wing, I'll say, of City Council, will be the City Council. The former space where the city clerk was located in the northeast corner will be the space for what I'll refer to as the legislative department, which will include the clerk's information governance division. That's under Assistant City Clerk Kristen Rummelhoff. It includes both our data practices, records management, and access divisions in the space nearest to the clock tower. It will include the department's operations team, which do the day-to-day administration and operations functions of the entire department. It will include our information technology and design team. It will include the Chief Assistant City Clerk, who will be the direct supervisor of all of those teams, and it will include the Policy, Research, Oversight, and Evaluation Consolidated teams as well. So all of those functions will be co-located in similar spaces.
That's great. I really welcome future discussions about how we continue in this government restructure effort. The voters decided this back in 2021, and there's more work to do. Not only does this specific change respect the needs of our city clerk, it also moves us into compliance with our city charter sooner, and to me this is of the utmost importance. Objectivity and independence are two very important things and concerns. We can keep the audit department completely independent and move our research and oversight functions under the clerk, where I believe it's better placed. The changes sent out by Council President Payne yesterday add a number of, in my opinion, duplicative, actually quintuplicated language. Obviously, the city clerk and the Office of City Auditor are independent. This ordinance was finally ready last cycle, and I don't see these new changes being consequential. I think one reference here might have been plenty, but it's not worth fighting over. It's just more complicated than it needs to be. I think we have consensus today, and this is way overdue, as I made clear at the last council meeting, so I'm pleased we are moving forward this cycle. It's really important for the research and oversight functions to be working collaboratively with council and not in an in a department that would be independent of this council. So this is a big step in our continued build-out of a strong legislative operating body, in my opinion. Thank you.
Thank you, and thank you, Council President Payne, for, pushing for that extra time for you to have conversations with the audit committee. I think that was the correct decision. I think it was important to engage with as many people as possible as we are focusing on the legislative department. I think the changes you are bringing forward are enough for me to still have concerns, to be very clear, but enough to support the ordinance today. I think there needs to be a dramatic focus in the legislative department, because I have felt that there has always been a central focus on the administration side rather than the legislative department, and I think that these amendments are enough to get my support today with concerns. But I did want to appreciate you to at least delaying that, making sure that we took time, and if we would have taken that vote, it would have been a more split decision last cycle, and now we're having a vote that has more consensus on it, and I think that's what leadership is about. Thank you. All right, colleagues, all those in favor say aye. Well, seeing no further questions, is there a motion to approve this item?
So moved.
All right, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed say nay. Any abstentions? And the ayes have it, and that motion carries.
Thank you.
All right, next up, Councilmember Osman, you have a walk-on item.
Yes, thank you so much, Chair. I have a walk-on item. It's a policy resolution enhancing cultural responsive for water safety and drowning prevention for autistic children. Children on autistic spectrum face significant increase of risk of drowning due to the wandering behavior, limited access to water safety and education. In Minnesota, we have seen the increase of children that are dying in the water. And this includes devastating losses of 4 years old Awais Ali Muhammad, who drowned in Minnehaha Creek. 11 years old Muhammad found in Bond near his Eden Prairie home. Their deaths reflect systematic gaps in water safety education. Immigrant and Papak families, particularly those from East African community, face compound risk due to the cultural stigma, language, access barrier, and financial hardship, and lack of inclusive cultural affirming services. I never shared this with you, but about a year and a half ago, my nephew was drowned in Woodbury. He was 9 years old. He was autistic. His mom gave birth, and somehow he found a way to get out the building and run to the near barn and was drowned and was in there for 30 minutes. And it's really a tragic for my family and for my brother, and it was kind of see him in the hospital and life support for over 3 weeks. It was really challenging and difficult, and it's not just the story like this, but it's many stories that we see every summer in Minneapolis and surrounding area, that we see a lot of young people that are autistic that are dying for water. So wanted to I work with Mangar Voices, a Minnesota-based autistic advocacy organization that really wanted to bring this forward, and met the health department. They have been very helpful to work with us on this resolution. And as a city of Minneapolis, we need to make a stand on what's happening and the children that are dying for drowning, and this is what that is. And on Thursday, I will have families that lost their children, and also the advocate communities that continue to advocate for the safety of autistic children come on full council on Thursday to present, and you will hear more about that. But really wanted to bring this and awareness and make sure that we are taking the right steps to prevent this happening in the future. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Councilmember Osman. There is no one on queue, so may I please have a motion to approve this resolution? On a motion, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay. Any abstentions? The ayes have it, and that motion carries to a full council meeting. Finally, colleagues, we have reports from standing committees on matters to be considered by the full council meeting tomorrow. We'll start with the Administration and Enterprise Oversight, chaired by Councilmember Wansley.
Thank you, Chair Chavez. I'm going to have my Vice Chair, Lene Palmisano, or Councilmember Palmisano read, since she chaired that meeting.
Colleagues, the Administration and Enterprise Oversight Committee is bringing forward 13 items for approval on Thursday. The first two are gift acceptances for travel and lodging expenses for Chief O'Hara and Rochelle Widmer. Item number 3 is a contract amendment for a case management software solution. Item number 4 is an amendment with Pillsbury United for the LEAD program services. Item number 5 are contracts with Metro Youth Diversion for the Community Safety Ambassador programs. Item 6 is a contract amendment with the state for air quality monitoring stations on city properties. Item number 7 is a contract amendment with Kramer North America for the First Avenue Bridge reconstruction. Item number 8 are various vendors for our 2024 violence prevention services. This is rollover money. This might not be rollover money. I want to be specific with that. Item number 9 is a contract with Minneapolis Downtown Council for the Vibrant Downtown Storefronts Initiative. Item number 10 is a lease amendment with COCO for facility and meeting room space. Item number 11 is the bid for overlay and existing lane markings. Item number 12 are contracts for the 2025 Open Streets events, and we had a conversation at committee about that. Item number 13 we also discussed, and it's a contract with LSE Architects for architectural and engineering design services for the new Minneapolis Democracy Center. I am happy to stand for or field questions.
Thank you. Seeing no one on queue, next up we have the Budget Committee, Vice President Chuck Time.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The Budget Committee is bringing forward 2 items to Thursday's council meeting. Item number 1 is passage of ordinance approving the salary schedule for and adopting findings approving the establishment of an appointed position in the Human Resources Department of Assistant Director, Labor Relations. And item number 2 is considering the passage of a resolution related to rollover of unspent 2024 appropriations. This item was sent forward without recommendation to allow more time to receive a more detailed report of the proposed rollover appropriations. With that, I'll stand for any questions.
Thank you, President Payton.
Thank you, Chair Chavez. During committee, I made that motion to forward without recommendation because I thought there were some missing details for us to make a really informed decision on those rollover funds. I'll reiterate that this is money that is already committed, and if we were not to approve those rollover funds, that would be eating into the 2025 budget. And we have a conundrum because clearly we don't want to put a multi-million-dollar hole in our current budget, and at the same time, our financial policies say that we need a business plan that aligns with each one of those appropriations. And to my understanding, we haven't done business planning at the department level for many years here. I think this is a governance issue. I think this is really on us as in our fiduciary responsibilities, in our oversight capacity to really reinforce that. I think by the letter of the policy, we shouldn't be passing any of this because we don't actually have business plans. I think Mr. Hargrove, our controller, spoke to our budget book as the planning document that he referenced in approving and moving, or at least recommending those rollover appropriations. But I think there's a bridge here. We have been working with the controller to get some of the additional reporting requirements, or at least reporting that he has, and we're hoping to hear back before Thursday. But I do want to plant the seed that I think there's a missing piece here around much more comprehensive planning within each of our departments. And I will be working with our our city clerk and anyone else that wants to actually push forward for some stronger planning. So I'm thinking about how to approach that, but just wanted to plant that seed now as we're going into Thursday's meeting. We have got time still to hear back from our CFO and our controller on what kind of additional details we'll get, but I'm hoping that we can have some thorough information before that vote.
Thank you. Next up, we have the Business, Housing, and Zoning Committee chaired by Councilmember Osman. Are you doing it?
Yes,
Vice Chair
Councilmember.
Chattery.
Yeah, Councilmember Osman was absent during the Biz Committee, and so I chaired the meeting, so I'll read the report. The Biz Committee will be bringing 15 items to Thursday's council meeting. The first is approving a permanent expansion of premises license for Dexter's. Second is a passage of ordinance approving a local registration program for cannabis and hemp retailers. Number 3 is a passage of resolution authorizing the land sale for a portion of 1027 Essex Street. Number 4 is a passage of ordinance establishing provisions for a sidewalk cart and street vending program. This item was also amended at Biz. Item number 5 is considering a license revocation for Duet Coffee and Wine. This item was sent forward without recommendation, but now staff has told us that they have received a withdrawal form from the restaurant. Therefore, it's going to be deleted at the full council meeting on Thursday. Number 6 is approving 2 liquor licenses. Number 7 is approving 55 liquor license renewals. Number 8 is approving 4 gambling licenses. Number 9 is approving 4 gambling license renewals. Number 10 is a passage of resolution accepting funds from the Midwest Arts Conservation Center for the city's public art collection. Number 11 is approving a rezoning and street vacation application from Hennepin County Facility Services. Number 12 is approving a small and medium multifamily loan assumption for several properties. Number 13 is a passage of resolution accepting a grant for the Minneapolis Animal Care and Control's travel expenses. Number 14 is a passage of resolution accepting a grant from the Best Friends Animal Society. And 15, lastly, a passage of resolution authorizing an animal sheltering services contract with the city of St. Louis Park. With that, I'll stand for any questions.
Thank you. I did have Councilmember Vice Chair Chowdhury and I are possibly bringing forward some amendments to the sidewalk or food cart ordinance. We are working with staff right now, so we're saying maybe just because there's still conversations with Minneapolis Public Schools, and there's conversations about the umbrella component of the ordinance that there was public testimony on. So if there is changes, we will email them to you, but we're working closely with staff on those and the Minneapolis Public School system. So I at least want to make sure that we told you that in advance. We're not sure if there's going to be amendments, but we at least wanted to let you know that they may be coming. Next up, we have Councilmember Ellison.
Just wanted to say I was representing the city in federal court that day, and so I just want to thank our quiet co-chair, Councilmember Chowdhury, for holding down the fort, and great job. So.
Awesome. So, seeing no one else, next up we have the Climate and Infrastructure Committee. I'll pass it to the Vice Chair of that committee, Councilmember Koski.
Hearing for the 2025 Concrete Pavement Rehabilitation Program. Item number 3 is concurring with the city engineer's variance request for the reconstruction of Cedar Lake Road Bridge over BNSF Railroad. Item number 4 is requesting MnDOT to make additions and removals to the municipal state aid system within the city of Minneapolis. Item number 5 is authorizing a pipeline license agreement with BNSF Railroad Company on 22nd Avenue North between 2nd Street North and West River Road. Item 6 is passage of a resolution expressing support for MnDOT's University Avenue and 4th Street Southeast Reconstruction Project. Item number 7 is authorizing construction of a regional stormwater treatment system at the Upper Harbor Terminal. And item number 8 is accepting a grant for community geothermal development. I will stand for questions.
Thank you. And no one is on queue. And lastly, we have the Public Health and Safety Committee, but we are not bringing forward any items to this Thursday's council meeting. So we are done. All right. With that, we concluded all business to come before committee today. And hearing no objection, I will declare this meeting adjourned.